Hey guys, okay, so I wanted to do part 3 as soon as I could and not uh, make anybody wait another day, make myself wait another day, so I can just get it out in a fluid fashion. So, because there was definitely stuff I want to talk about, and I put corrections in the last video because I was like a silly poop and I called the time travel book. I said the time travel book was by H.P. Lovecraft. That was silly. It's by H.G. Wells. I just was like talking and got cross chatter. Another reference. So okay. Something else I wanted to say about the last video something else I am ripe to say about the last video, and it had to do with exactly what I was saying. I am not fond as much of the word want, and I'm doing my best to ixnay that out of my vocabulary. I had trained myself not to use that for a while, but then I backslid and started using the word want again. And the reason why is because want is the energy of lack. When you want something, you're admitting you don't have it. Gratitude is being thankful for something you already have. And so I was like, well, how can I properly replace the word want from my vocabulary? And I started thinking, and the word that came to mind for me was ripe. I started, because, and like what I used to think about it was nature. I'm like, okay, well, how did nature solve this want thing? So, and I thought about blossoming and blooming and being ripe, and that's when those words came to me for the true essence of what I'm trying to express when I would accidentally use the word want. It was really gratefulness and ripeness for what I know is so. So, now that I clarified that, okay. Oh yeah. Also, the guy that I was referring to about the time stuff, his name is David Lewis Anderson. I referenced him not because I think he knows more than me or whatever. I had a discussion about this with somebody on my Facebook. It's not because I think he's like the end all say all, but he is someone who has been in the Air Force, like my granddad. And he is a scientist, and he also has his own independent lab where he does his own time studies and more than studies, successful stuff. So I really figured that his stuff would be very interesting to listen to. I have this like stray hair that is like in my eye. There we go. Okay, so I figured it'd be good to listen to some of his stuff, because and here's the deal. When you open the box of time travel, quote unquote, it's really not travel. When you open the box of time vectoring, it's time vectoring. When you do that, you realize that box was never closed, because the moment you opened it, it's always been open. So all these things, like they talk about the time police and stuff like that. Like, oh, the time police we're gonna have to create a time police and stuff like that. Going to have to create. Well, it's like stuff's already happened because all time is now. So it's already there. There are time wardens or gatekeepers, whatever you want to call it. So, in the last video, we talked about the Greys, and we talked about the whole deal with my dad and the molestation growing up, and then we started getting into Dreamworks. So, I wanted to go back to the Dreamworks stuff. So the traumas and things like that is what we were talking about. How they used to have to traumatize people in the MK Ultra programs by way of physical, like the family trauma, which of course is definitely beneficial. The family trauma is something that they use. But then the taking to the bases and, you know, strange locations. I talked about that, like where we would get programmed at strange locations. And then so they realized, because of all the satellite technology, because the multi-physics readers, all these different types of things were enabling them to remotely influence. So that's when probably the 80s, my generation was most likely one of the first generations where they started to really switch things, like integrate the physical and the I guess the 70s and the 80s, like integrate the physical and the energetic aspect of what's going on, of the mind control. I need to get some water real quick. I took a dab of cannabis wax. I'm in California, so I can do that legally. Oh no, they're gonna call me Kelly. I stuck my tongue out. I'm everything. I had to drink some of my green chlorophyll water with just a hint of spearmint oil. Delicious in a crystal. My pond water. Harmony pond water, as I call it. Because it's green. Okay. Sometimes I put a little spirulina in it, or blue-green algae. Got a lot of good stuff like that. Okay, so the Dreamworks. So the changing over. And this shit has gotten so advanced. Actually, the camera adds weight. Look at that. Chubby in this out. I'm not chubby. Oh, give myself a double chin. I'm a goofball, so humor is important. Alright, it's such a big subject, so I gotta, like, figure out how to perfectly zero in on this. Okay, so I know a good place to start. My dreams as a kid. So this is the time dilation is something that they use in order to do the 20 and back programs and also make you think it's a dream. So and they're getting way more sophisticated with that, way more sophisticated. What happened? One of the main memories I have as a kid with my dreams was I was in a vehicle. It was a Lincoln, like, or not, I don't know if it was a Lincoln. It was a type of town car. It was like one of those boxy cars from the 70s, early 80s, and it was like powder blue. And I was in the back seat, and I was staring at the lock. And flat landscape was whizzing by. And in the dream, I understand that I was being kidnapped. And this is like, and I dream is in quotes because this did not seem like a dream at all. You know, in what dream are you sitting there for 30 minutes, you know, staring at something, watching the background blurrily whizzing by, staring at this door lock, contemplating, do I jump out of the car? You know, what do I do? And that's what this dream was. And then all of a sudden, I wake up in my bed with the typical symptoms, sweating profusely, my heart is racing, I'm, you know, completely freaked out because I completely, you know, not only was it was like I was being kidnapped in that dream, but it's almost like there was something, whatever happened afterward was like extremely traumatizing. Whatever happened, you know, that they were kidnapping me for, these freaking businessy looking people or whatever. I really honestly don't have a visual memory of them, other than I have like this vagueness of trench coat, which my Uncle Ray wore trench coats all the time, like a tan one, don't blink out. So, I like, okay, so the fact of the matter is when you try to do these videos and you're a targeted individual who's connected to the satellite feedback loops, is they know what's going on, and so they like, oh, block, and they try to put on a block, and I guess that was the trench coat thing. But okay, so it triggered me back into memory, so I just bring up the trigger again and you'll remember. Okay, so I was talking about the dream. Or I was kidnapped. Dreamworks. Thank you. Okay, see how I did that? It's called walking the cat backwards, and that's really important, and that has to do with how you wake up from a dream. It's the same way, I guess, as how you wake up from their fucking blanking out. Okay, so that was really good that happened. Thank you, God. I did some keto on their stuff. So now we have the dream back. Okay, so I'm in the car and all that, and so when I wake up, it's like I'm already in PTSD. I'm completely freaking out. I'm completely like, my body is in full trauma mode. So something obviously happened, and I really, really, really do feel, and in my opinion, my knowing, I'll say that, feelings are more, they're more energetic than beliefs. The word lies in there. So I go with my feelings, because my feelings, I harmonize myself regularly by silencing myself so that I can connect all of my energy systems. We talk about the gut feeling, we talk about our heart, and we talk about our third eye, our mind, all that. They're important. They work together. So I do the silencing to harmonize that. I'm ripe to do that more, for sure. It's almost every day, but I'll admit, because of the constant Dreamworks stuff that they're doing on me, sometimes I fall asleep, and I don't like that. It's not the best way to utilize the meditation. So yeah, that's another thing that irritates me about this Dreamworks stuff. So what I feel happened in that instance was I was actually kidnapped and most likely drugged. I was probably drugged with something like scopolamine. And who knows, it could have been my Uncle Ray doing it from the office. I have no idea. Most likely it was from the office. Like, I was taken to the CIA front company office, where Honduran Express line was, in the early 80s and 90s, like early 90s. So I was most likely taken to that office at 3445 North Causeway Boulevard in Metairie, Louisiana, right by Lake Pontchartrain, most likely, and possibly given scopolamine or some similar thing like that, and then was being taken. Since I was seeing flatness whizzing by, like, so it wasn't like New Orleans City, it wasn't like Metairie, the community area. It was either like going across Lake Pontchartrain Bridge, which is the second longest bridge in the world, and it was this flat, super flat bridge. It was some sort of flat background, or I was like going to the swamps area, something like that. It was this flat background, and I lived in New Orleans, or Metairie, Louisiana, which is basically New Orleans. So, excuse me 1 second. Isn't that cute? Look at this, my little bag I got. It's so cute. I love stuff that's rainbows and stuff. It's like, it keeps things in perspective for me. Everything's about the photons. Photons are bright neon colors. I did a science experiment when I was in my advanced level class in college, using ionic salts on a hot plate, and they revealed the colors of photons, and they were neon, orange, magenta, green, all that. So, okay, I like to go on tangents. They're fun, but I like to stay on point and keep myself getting back to the point too. But I noticed I could use some of that. Goodness, I didn't really think about the cotton mouth, did I? Okay. We'd have some stuff to do with this too in dreams, because it is a thing that when you start using cannabis, you don't always remember your dreams because of serotonin levels. So, and this is something I'm, researching and stuff, but I will say that the cannabis does help with the PTSD and the stress levels and stuff like that. And that is something that's really important. So, to help balance that, I take some supplements, and that is 5-HTP. It is found in beans. I get it from natural source. So you can eat more beans, but I take it as a supplement, not like every day. But to try to help with the serotonin and the cannabis so that I can remember my dreams, the portaling process, whatever. So, so then what we're talking about, the dream where I was kidnapped, the dream where I was kidnapped. So that's what I think happened was I was in the car and I was taken to somewhere, and the whatever they gave me kind of started wearing off in the back seat. And then, I was like contemplating all this, and apparently they most likely noticed that I was not knocked out, and, repeated the procedure. And then finished whatever they were doing. And, the end of this, they could have happened a couple different ways, because considering my family was involved with electronics weapons, my granddad was an electronics weapons specialist with the Aerospace Defense Department, and he helped to put up the satellites. I'm like, based on, like, I have tons of his paperwork. It's not all of it. It's tons of his paperwork that I got after he passed away, and it's on my Facebook, and it shows him with the top secret clearance, from Langley. It shows him with all kinds of stuff. He was on the 72nd radar squadron. You have to go to my Facebook to look at him exactly, but he's got radar squadrons, and that was the cover. And and he was like it was like anti-warcraft. I mean, it was like first defense, and he also, like I said, worked for the Aerospace Defense Department doing this electronic weapons specialist stuff, and he was also supervisor on the same computer systems that ran the Apollo mission. So, and he had, metal fab work, and he had guided missile, courses and certifications and all this stuff. So basically he was like, they were honing him in on, becoming, like an advanced electronic weapons operator, like, because radar and electronic weapons are very it's similar. You have the sweeping aspect of the radar, and then you have the vortex directing aspect of the directed energy aspect of it. So, and there's pulsing as well, so they're all related. And he was working on computer systems, so it was just duh. And lived on base, was in Vietnam, all that. So Agent Orange was involved in his murder, activating Guillain-Barré, and that is makes you look like you're brain dead when you're not. And they forced my mom to pull the plug. I think he was about to come out about stuff, but anyway. So the kidnapping part. So how they got me back into my bed could have happened a few different ways. One of the ways that I could have got back into my bed was that they just plain old brought me back into my bed, and I had been given drugs to, knock me out. And that's very possible, but I have a pretty decent feeling that there would be protests from my mother. Like, my mother was bipolar, and she was also put through these things. So, she lived on base. She was, probably the first generation, other than my granddad, but she was probably the first generation child, maybe. I don't know, maybe my granddad was too. I don't know, but put through this system, this MK Ultra fucking bullshit. Let's be clear about that. So I don't blame her. This is all like, but I would imagine that she would protest, even though she was manipulative and abusive and all that stuff. It doesn't mean I necessarily think she would just be like A-okay with, people taking me and doing weird experiments. I don't know, and maybe they put her into an altered state. There's a lot of possibilities. They were doing a lot of fucking weird shit. So the other aspect would be time dilation, and that stuff is definitely employed right now. Like, I've talked about my son's dream, so and that's been part of the experience. It's like, they come into your room somehow. They're coming into your room, just popping up there, and next thing you know, they're like injecting you in the balls. In my son's case, it's just terrible. And he was like a little kid telling me this, and I'm like, what? We don't have cable. We didn't have TV. We had like Gaia TV, and which is just like a spiritual Netflix. So and he didn't hear anything like he was like 6 when this happened. And how he described the beings in his room, how they at first looked like some people we knew and their 2 kids, and as they got closer, their faces looked like space, like they had no face. So kind of weird stuff like that. And then he talked about how he went numb after that, or he couldn't, how he went to, it's like they injected him in the balls and he couldn't feel and went to sleep. So what is that? And then obviously he wakes up and comes and runs. It's like they obviously they put, it's what it seems like to me. It seems obvious to me because of what I've been through, that they did that to him, and then they, in a time dilation bubble, they did that to him, and then either beamed him up to a ship or portaled him out, is probably, portaled him out somewhere, maybe portaled him to the 4th dimensional like facilities that they have. And I'll talk about the facilities. I've had dreams about them. But and then did something to him, put him back in his bed, and he woke up freaking out and came upstairs. Like that's really what it seems like is going on. Especially when you start listening to these people that talk about time dilation bubbles being a reality, definitely being used. It's just like, duh. And all these countries having it, and it's obvious that the people have become the enemy in this situation, and that the intelligence agencies have ganged up together. And yes, they're infighting like a motherfucker. They're infighting all over the fucking place. And they're trying to use people. I mean, like, if you're not aware at any point, we got a matrix situation where anybody could become Agent Smith, I mean, people are like, President Trump this, President Trump that, he's doing this, he's doing one thing bad, doing one thing good, whatever, blah, blah, blah. That's because he's an MK Ultra victim just like all the other ones, and they're fucking infighting over him. You have the Patriots on one side, or, whatever you want to call them. I mean, we've all of the people involved in this, and actually everyone, we've all been through trauma, so, and when you get to those kind of levels, the things that they make you do, but like they threaten to kill your family if you don't do it. And I don't just mean like bang bang, I mean like tie their limbs up to the different cars and drive in all different directions in front of you if you don't fucking do this crazy ass shit to this little kid or infant or whatever, and I'm not saying that I personally have memories of me doing that, but that's the kind of stuff that they do. And I'm still trying to get my memories back, because like I said in the first videos, I came to these awakenings spiritually first. I've always had these weird things in my memories, but I just thought that was my life, my individual life, that I had a fucked up childhood, weird shit. And then, that my mom worked with somebody who, tried out for the CIA and talked to me about ETs all the time, and used to open mouth kiss me a little weird, and I thought he was a lonely old man and stuff like that. But then I started having my spiritual awakening and I started seeing things that I didn't see before, like chemtrails, and I started asking more and more questions, and then I started finding out more and more about MK Ultra and mind control and the energy and frequencies involved. And I was already, I had gone to college as a pre-med student, and I had been in advanced classes since kindergarten, including advanced sciences, through high school. And so, I'm glad I got out of the college. I had crazy stuff happening to me during one of my semesters, during finals, and I was on scholarship, and I'm sure everything was planned, my mom got a tumor, my grandma had a stroke, and I was literally in the middle of my finals, and I bombed them. I was freaking out. And so I was on hiatus, and then when it came time to come back, I was somebody hit and run. I was in a hit and run. Someone hit me and fled. Probably someone who was an illegal. It looked like, which is, whatever. So I ended up having to go to another city with my mom, and she spent all the money that I was supposed to buy a new car with. So I was stranded, and I almost lost my apartment, and I wasn't able to go back to school. So there was weird ass shit like that. But in the long run, it ended up being a good thing, because the University of Texas, which is where I was going, is filled with MK Ultra mind control, and Harold Putoff is a CIA agent who, according to the research that Michael Gregory Thomas has done, who is a very good microbiologist who has done a lot of research on microwave murder and the MK Ultra stuff, has related Harold Putoff to the CIA agent to MK Ultra and harming children. He also has a think tank which funnels students out of UT to be in his think tank, which is studying, guess what, 0-point energy and levitation. Did I know that at the time when I went there? Fuck no. Did I even know what 0-point energy was? No. I just have, all this stuff has been synchronicity. All this stuff has been synchronicity. So I can only imagine what would have happened if I would have continued to go through school with the mindset, and this is why I was going through going to be a psychiatrist, was because I wanted to disprove the need for medicine and healing. But the thing is, the pharmaceutical companies write the textbooks, so you can imagine what kind of resistance I would have gone through if I would have even made it out alive. I don't know. So, especially with, Harold Putoff there and everything, and my destiny with 0-point energy. But, some sources that apparently have seen stuff on the dark web where you can apparently find, I don't know, these military files. I don't know. Apparently sources from the dark web have told me that that I was used at UT anyway, like without my knowledge, and it had to do with DMT, synthesizing DMT, and like children and scaring or something. I don't know. This is just something someone told me that happened to me, so it's a little weird. And I was not aware then. I had no idea about MK Ultra back then when I was in college. That was like 2002 to 2003, and then part of 2003 to 2004. So yeah, intense stuff. So just to give a little background, so I'm not coming from like a place of like idiocy here. I have some background for sure in sciences, and I didn't fail in my sciences. It was actually, English was really, really hard. It was a weed out course. It was definitely a weed out course, and I just, that was right. I remember my mom calling me right before that test even. So we were talking about the Dreamworks and that one kidnapping dream. So they could have also used time dilation, and just put me back in the bed. And if you research the 20 back programs, they can take you from your bed as a child and keep you wherever they're keeping people. Some have memories of being on the moon, some Mars, some are saying that all of it's an illusion, whatever. I mean, space is an illusion. So arguing about where is moot. It's probably fourth dimensional, where they're, because they're taking you while you're sleeping, I don't know. So, but yeah, so they can take you for like 20 years. That's like kind of the max before issues start to occur. So they can like take you for 20 years and then age regress you and put you back the second they took you. But you'll still have all the subconscious, emotions and energy from what happened in those 20 years, but you'll all of a sudden be a child again and not have any memories of any of that, you know? So, and I really feel that this is something that went on, because I was very mature. Like I said, at age 5, you know, I was able to intuit very deep things. So this video is about to end again. So let me go into I don't know if I'd have time to read the dream, but I can. I like to read stuff from this every day. It's Meditations from Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh. This series of books, like not just the meditations, but the series Conversations with God. A lot of religions hate this book, especially Christianity hates this book because it opens up the dialogue with God right here, right now, and eliminates the need for even the book itself. You know, like when the book closes, the conversation doesn't end, and whether you agree with the book or not doesn't matter because the conversation opens up with infinite consciousness, and it teaches you as well the steps to take to broaden the spectrum, so that instead of, you know, a devil on the shoulder and an angel on this shoulder, you have an angel on the shoulder and God and infinite consciousness on the shoulder. It's like you change the frequency, you change the two sides of your brain to be harmonic with your heart. So, and it opens up that dialogue. So I was going to read it has one for each day of the year. So today is the 17th. Ooh, come on. April 17th. Okay. There are those who say that to know God you must overcome all earthly passions, yet to understand and accept them is enough. What you resist persists. What you look at disappears. It's very important with all this. We must face what's happening. We must not resist it. We must face it, and it will phase collapse into the most harmonic process. And I'm going to make the next part. I have to render this and everything, and then delete off my phone, so it does take a little bit.